They say respect is earned. But some people only respect the kind they can control. And when a black Marine named Darius Cole walked into a room full of men who thought authority meant superiority, he didn't need to raise his voice. Because real power doesn't shout. Stands. This is what happened when 2 guards picked the wrong man to belittle, and how 6 Navy SEALs reminded the world what brotherhood truly looks like. Before we begin, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss stories that remind the world that dignity doesn't have to ask for permission. The Veterans Hall was packed that morning. Rows of chairs, flags draped along the wall, polished floors gleaming like mirrors. It was the annual Veterans Leadership Summit, a place meant to celebrate those who'd served, those who'd led, and those who'd sacrificed. Darius Cole, tall, composed, quiet, stood near the back, uniform pressed to perfection. His ribbons caught the soft light pouring through the windows. He didn't come for attention. He came because he'd been invited, one of the few Marines recognized for acts of valor overseas. But not everyone saw it that way. 2 new private security guards, young, cocky, unfamiliar with the hierarchy of respect, noticed him the moment he walked in. To them, he didn't look like someone important. Just another face in a uniform. They watched him from across the lobby, whispering, smirking. Darius ignored them, scanning the program booklet in his hands. He'd been through worse than this. War zones. Silence. You learn to recognize tension long before it explodes. It started small, a question meant to embarrass. "Hey, sir," one guard said, blocking his path near the hallway entrance. "This section's for registered attendees only." Darius nodded once, calm. "Understood. My name's Sergeant Major Darius Cole. I'm one of the speakers." The guard blinked, half smiling like it was a joke. "Right, and I'm the president." The second guard laughed under his breath. "You military guys always think you can walk anywhere you want." Darius didn't flinch. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "I don't think you know who you're talking to." That's when the first guard stepped forward, puffing his chest. "Oh, I think we do. You're the guy who doesn't belong in this section. So I'm gonna need to see your badge." Darius reached slowly into his pocket, producing the lanyard with his event credentials. He handed it over without a word. The guard stared. The badge clearly read Guest of Honor, Sergeant Major Darius Cole, USMC. He froze for half a second, then smirked. Could be fake. Seen these before. People nearby began to whisper. Some turned to watch. A few veterans in the crowd frowned, but no one spoke up. Darius stood still. His posture didn't waver. His silence said everything. He'd been disrespected before, but not like this. Not in a hall meant to honor the very people who built its foundation. "Sir," he said finally, voice calm but firm, "if you're going to question my service, do it properly. Verify it. Call your supervisor." The guard snorted. "Or you can leave before we have to escort you out." The second guard added, "You heard him. Let's not make this a scene." Darius's eyes flicked to the flags hanging on the wall. Marines, Navy, Air Force, Army. Brotherhood stitched in fabric. "You already made it one," he said softly. Just then, a woman from the registration table hurried over, clipboard in hand, eyes wide with concern. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "What's going on here?" "Ma'am," the first guard replied, "this man's not on the list." She frowned, glancing at Darius's badge. Then her expression changed, shock, then shame. "Are you serious?" she said, voice low. "That's Sergeant Major Darius Cole. He's one of the keynote speakers." The guard's smirk vanished. The second one muttered something about confusion. But Darius didn't say a word. He simply turned, straightened his posture, and adjusted his collar. "Next time," he said, "make sure you know who you're addressing before you make assumptions." The crowd murmured. A few clapped quietly, but the humiliation had already spread like wildfire. Darius walked past them toward the main hall, face steady, but inside, a storm was brewing. He sat in the green room before his speech, alone, the hum of air vents filling the silence. He stared at the mirror in front of him, his reflection steady but tired. Every Marine knows composure is armor. But even armor wears thin when the blows keep coming from the people you protect. He thought about his brothers, the ones who didn't make it home. Men who looked like him, fought beside him, bled the same color. And he wondered if their worth would have been questioned too. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. It was the event coordinator, a petite woman with kind eyes. "Sergeant Major," she said gently, "we're so sorry about what happened. The guards have been disciplined." He nodded once. "It's all right." But his voice carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken things. When Darius finally took the stage, the room fell silent. Hundreds of veterans, officers, and recruits sat waiting, unaware of what had just happened outside. He didn't use his notes. He didn't need them. He looked out over the crowd, faces of every color, rank, and creed. Then he said, "Some people still confuse silence with weakness. They think calm means complacent. But let me tell you, real strength doesn't come from shouting the loudest. It comes from standing the tallest when no one's standing with you." The room went still. Every word hung heavy like truth-breaking glass. "I've been told to know my place more times than I can count," he continued. "And every time I smiled, because I do know my place. It's right here. I earned it." The applause began slow, then rose like thunder. Somewhere in the back, the two guards stood by the doorway, faces pale, eyes down. Darius didn't look at them. He didn't need to. Because real respect doesn't come from being feared. It comes from being remembered. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He just stood, and the world remembered what honor really looked like. But what Darius didn't know was that this story wasn't over. Because sometimes karma doesn't arrive in silence. Sometimes it marches in, 6 men strong. The applause still echoed when Darius stepped off the stage. The event coordinator smiled, eyes wet. "That was incredible, Sergeant Major." He nodded politely, humbly. "Just words. It's what we do after them that matters." He was about to leave quietly when a deep voice spoke from behind him, steady, confident. "Sergeant Major Cole?" Darius turned. 6 men stood in formation near the back wall, their posture unmistakable. Uniforms crisp, medals glinting under the hall lights. Navy SEALs. The one in front, a tall man with a shaved head and calm authority, extended his hand. "Commander Blake Weston, United States Navy. My team and I heard what happened outside that door earlier." Darius's brow furrowed. "You did." "We did," Weston said. "And we weren't gonna let it slide." Darius smiled faintly. "It's handled, Commander. I'm not here for confrontation." Weston shook his head slowly. "Neither are we." He glanced over his shoulder at the 2 security guards still posted by the exit, pale, avoiding eye contact. "You see, Sergeant Major," Weston continued, "we don't take kindly to anyone disrespecting our brothers. Doesn't matter what branch. Doesn't matter what color. Respect is the only uniform that never fades." The other SEALs nodded, quiet agreement in their eyes. Word spread quickly through the hall. People drifted closer, whispers swelling like a tide. The SEALs didn't yell. They didn't threaten. They simply walked toward the guards, calm, controlled, a wall of silent authority. One of them, a broad-shouldered man named Ruiz, stopped right in front of the first guard. "You see him?" he said quietly, nodding toward Darius. "That's a Marine. A man who's bled for the flag you stand under. Next time you open your mouth, make sure it's in the service of respect." The guard swallowed hard, words dying on his tongue. The second SEAL, a woman, Lieutenant Vega, leaned slightly forward, eyes like steel. "Disrespecting one of us is disrespecting all of us," she said. "Learn that before you put on another badge." The crowd went silent. You could hear the hum of the air vents, the heartbeat of the moment. Darius didn't move. He didn't need to. The truth was doing all the talking. Later that day, the director of security approached Darius personally. "Sergeant Major Cole," he said, voice heavy with guilt. "The guards have been removed from duty. On behalf of this organization, we're sorry." Darius looked him in the eye. "I appreciate that," he said. "But don't just remove them. Teach them. Because respect isn't just a policy, it's a culture." The man nodded, humbled. And that moment, quiet, dignified, firm, changed the tone of the entire summit. By evening, veterans from every branch had come to shake Darius's hand. The same men who'd been silent before now stood in solidarity. And when the SEAL team left that night, they stopped by one last time. Commander Weston grinned. "You handled that better than we ever could have." Darius smiled softly. "Maybe. But sometimes silence says more than rank." Weston nodded. "Yeah. But just so you know, if it ever happens again, you won't be standing alone." They saluted. Not out of protocol, but out of brotherhood. Weeks later, a video clip of Darius's speech went viral. Someone in the crowd had recorded it. His calm words, his composure under fire. The caption read, "When respect walks in wearing discipline, even arrogance stands down." Thousands commented. Veterans, civilians, even officers who'd once stayed quiet. They all said the same thing. This is what leadership looks like. But Darius never chased attention. He stayed the same, calm, humble, steady. Because people like him don't fight for applause. They fight for something deeper. The principle that how you stand matters just as much as why. A month later, Darius received a letter. The event board was implementing new guidelines. All event staff must undergo respect and bias training before being placed in any veteran-facing role. At the bottom, a handwritten note. Inspired by the example of Sergeant Major Darius Cole. He read it twice, then smiled, small, genuine, almost tired. Because this was the kind of victory that didn't need headlines. Just hearts changed quietly in rooms where it mattered. And somewhere across the country, 6 Navy SEALs got the same letter, thanking them for upholding the honor of all who serve. That evening, Darius sat on his porch. Sunset stretched across the horizon, gold melting into crimson. Kendra, his wife, patient and wise, brought out 2 mugs of coffee and sat beside him. "You never even raised your voice," she said softly. "And still you changed them." He chuckled quietly. "People don't change because you yell louder. They change when you make them look at themselves." She smiled. "Guess that's your superpower." He shook his head. "No. Just a Marine doing what Marines do, standing tall." They sat in silence for a while, the sound of cicadas filling the space between them. Finally, Darius spoke again, voice low, reflective. "You know, people think respect is given by rank or title. But it isn't. It's earned by how you treat those who can't give you anything in return." Kendra looked at him, eyes soft with pride. "That's why they'll remember your name, Darius." He smiled faintly. "Maybe. But I'd rather they remember the lesson." Darius Cole didn't fight that day with his fists. He fought with composure, and he won with grace. Because in a world that confuses confidence with arrogance, he showed that real strength doesn't need to prove itself. Sometimes, the loudest lesson comes from the quietest man in the room. And when arrogance tried to remove him, respect walked in, wearing 6 Navy SEAL uniforms. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every week we tell stories that remind the world, real strength doesn't shout. Sometimes, it simply stands.